Hello. All right. Okay, guys, we are live. Okay. So, hello everyone, and in this video, we'll be learning about error handling and logging. And what is basically error handling? So, the main confusion is a lot of people are worried about what is error handling. Error handling is simply you are returning some kind of response that if user is invalid, you are returning some kind of error, right? You are having different kind of errors for different kind of things. But a very basic error is auth error, user is not authenticated, some things like that. So how to deal with those errors? Do you have to write error for every API call you make? No, we have methods in MongoDB. I'm sorry, we have methods in Express to actually deal with errors all with a single API. So you don't need to write errors again and again, that then catch, then catch, then catch. It's not like that. Okay, so we'll be understanding how we can actually work with errors today. And in the last video, I actually rushed up a bit with the bearer token part. So I'll just re-explain you that part because that was a bit new thing for you. Like I hope everybody understood the token part, but the bearer token is a very basic concept. But yeah, I'll just explain that again so that you get a better idea how actually things work there. Okay, but yeah, I would at least recommend everyone to watch the last video at first so that we are on the same page. All right. And second thing which we would do here is today we'll also learn about the refresh token concept. So this is a very popular concept, and nowadays it's a very important method to actually make your application secure. Okay, so we'll be learning about refresh tokens also today. So let's begin. Hi Man Kumar, hi Pawan Kumar. बढ़िया मैं भी बढ़िया हूँ. All right, so let's continue. So before that, actually, you can go in the description, and if you want full stack courses by Geeks for Geeks, you can check out the full stack courses by Geeks for Geeks, and they are available in the description. If you visit those links, first link is actually for the live course by Geeks for Geeks, and this is a complete live course, and you can get every thing possible here. You can see here that what all things are actually taught here. And second one is actually the classroom based program by Geeks for Geeks. This is the offline program by Geeks for Geeks. Okay, so Gurgaon and Noida are the offline centers there. All right, so now let's continue. And one more thing that we have Geeks for Geeks Olympics going on right now. So you can also participate there. So Geeks for Geeks Olympics, I'll just search for it and then I'll go to the first link. It will take me to this page and you can just participate in this. And right now you can see that a few of the competitions are going on, and we have the live stage for upcoming speakers who are actually taking sessions at Geeks for Geeks channel. So you can visit here, and if there are upcoming sessions, you'll see the names here, or else you would simply go to the Geeks for Geeks channel and then you can find the upcoming sessions. Okay, and one more thing, that here we have the leaderboard for all the participants, and whoever is on the top will be mentioned here. Okay, so it's very great to be mentioned here, and you can just show off to your friends also. And one more thing, that we have goodies, a lot of goodies as gifts, and you can see here are some gifts. You can check out this on your own. Okay, and don't forget to follow Geeks for Geeks on these platforms, and you can just share your story, whatever is your rank, you can share with Geeks for Geeks using this hashtag. All right, so now let's continue. And in the last video, we have actually covered the authentication part. So I wanted to know in the live chat how many of you actually got that video, and how many of you are actually confident that I know what is a token used for, authentication access token used for. Hmm. All right. So actually, the last video is actually available at Geeks4Geeks development channel. So once you visit this channel, you will find the whole playlist which we are following for 15 days. So you can see that we have the complete playlist here, and here you can see that we have this part. Okay, so someone said, okay, confident with the theory but looking for the code part. Okay, so what I'll do is today I'll just share the code, the GitHub repository, and then you can see the code, and you don't need to remember things, you just need to know the concept that yeah, token is used for this. Rest is you can just look for the code and then again use the kind of API which you are going to build. Okay, so I'll just share the type of the actual code which we have built till now. I'll just share it today. Okay, but yeah, here you can see that we have this. So you can watch the previous videos from this playlist definitely. Alright, silencing me. Okay, fine, great. So I think a lot of you are actually coming through the playlist, so that's great. And if you are not familiar, please watch the last videos properly. Alright, so now what I'll do is I'll just give you a short glimpse of what we have done till now in the authentication part. Then I'll explain what does bearer token actually do. Okay, it's just a short term, and instead of the bearer text you can just give the token as it is. It's not a very big deal. Okay, so it's just for specifying that what kind of token it is. So let's try that. So first of all, I'll just open my project 4. Okay, so this was the project which we were working on, and I'll just give you a glimpse of that, how things were actually going on. And I would definitely recommend please watch the last videos too, so that we are on the same page. Okay, so right now you can see that in the last video what we actually did was we created a simple application which logins, registers, and gets user data. Okay, so what we actually did was for the registration part, we took a few details of the user, that is email, password, age, gender, name, and saved it to a database, MongoDB database, right? So here we don't need any kind of token in the registration part. Now in the login part, what we did was we took email and password from the user, from the postman part, okay, from the front end part. So I'll just show you how things were working there. So I'll just open postman, and postman is here. Okay, so yeah, here you can see that we have the registration part. So I won't be calling the registration API because it's fine. Here you can see that we have the login API. So here we need to check that whether we are providing the correct details or not. So here you can see that yeah, we have application JSON, content type application JSON, and then in the body part I was actually providing some email and password. So let's try to log in with that. So for that we need to start our application nodemon index.js. Okay, and one more thing, today we'll be actually knowing how we can deal with cookies also. So you would be actually storing your refresh token in the front end cookies. Okay, so how you can actually store how you can actually access the cookies from the backend part of the front end user. We'll see that. Okay, don't worry. But yeah, here you can see the application has started. Now let's try to click this, and you can see that we got a token. So yeah, now I hope you got this token. Okay, so this is a normal token, just a normal token, and this is an access token. For how many minutes actually it's valid for? So here you can see what we did was we created a token, and now you can see that it's actually valid for 1 hour. Okay, so we actually have different kind of terminologies here. So in the expires in, it simply means that in this time the token would expire. Now suppose I wanted to mention it for 10 seconds. So for those cases I would simply write 10, 20. Okay, but for minutes I would actually write suppose 15 min. Okay, so it would simply mean that I want to expire this token after 15 minutes. Okay, that means after 15 minutes if someone uses this token, then that token would be expired, so that user won't be able to get the data. Okay, so that's a very basic example for expiry. But now I'll explain why are we actually expiring the token, and why would we need the refresh token things and stuff like that. But right now you would consider that the token we have created would expire in 1 hour. Okay, it's valid for 1 hour. We can use the token for 1 hour anywhere to get the data, right? So right now you can see we got the token, we created the token, and as a response we sent the token, and the response here is the response, right? So now we have the token. So Where were we using this token? We were using this token in the next API, that is the get my profile API. Get my profile API simply gives you your profile data based on the ID which you provide here, your own ID, and also in the headers part you will be providing your token. If your token if your token is the not expired one token, okay, and it matches, it actually its ID matches, it would be taken out. This token has three parts, right? The header, the payload part, and then the last is the signature part. So in the payload part your ID is hidden, so ID would be extracted and matched with this ID, right? We were doing this, and if those match, that means we are the same user, that means we are the I would say we are the owner of that ID, so we can actually have access to that. So that's why I was using comparison between this and the ID extracting from this. So right now you can see I was using bearer. Bearer simply specified that this is a kind of access token, but suppose if you remove this, it won't make any difference. But yeah, in the front end part, that means sorry, in the backend part, here in the API part, what you need to do is whenever you are providing get my profile, here you can see first of all authenticate token middleware is called. What does it do is this was a middleware, and this was a middleware, and this was actually called whenever you would call the get my profile API, right? What it did was it would simply split the authorization token from the first gap. So what we actually did was we simply wrote bearer here, right? So we simply wrote bearer here, right? So after bearer we have a space, and then we have this token, okay? Then we have this token. So what actually happens here is I'll just copy this whole, and now I'll paste it here. Okay, so I'll just paste my token here. So the token is exactly like in this format, and what we told is we simply said that get the authorization token and split this with the first gap. That means it would become an array. The first index would be bearer, second index would be this whole token, right? Now I'm saying simply access the second index of that array, that means this index. That's it, that's how we are actually accessing that. But suppose if we remove this, and now we can actually directly try this, okay? But bearer is simply for adding a flag to the token, that is this is kind of an access token, so that it looks more recognizable. That's why we were writing bearer. But suppose if we write this, and here if we remove this, we can still actually work with this. Okay, so now you can see that now this token is valid, and now let's try to send some data. You can see we are able to get this. Okay, but suppose we want to write some flag to identify what kind of token is this. So usually for access token you specify bearer word. Okay, so bearer is the word, so bearer, and after this just give a space, automatically it will go to next line. Okay, so once you do this, one more thing is required, that is the split part. Okay, that is the split part. So now you know why we are actually using bearer, right? So now I'll just remove this. So now you would continue with the token part. So what we did was we simply took the token from the authorization part of the headers, and then from the body we took the ID. We simply decoded the token, and we simply matched the decoded tokens ID with the ID which we provided in the body. And if they don't match, then we simply gave the auth error. But if they matched, we simply said that do the next part. Next part is what? Next part is actually wherever this middleware was called. Wherever this middleware is called, the next is actually this part. So next is simply like we got the ID, we simply find the user by that ID, and now we are actually returning that user. Okay, and what we did here was we simply made the password undefined, so that as a response you are not sending the password, so that no one can see the password, saved password, right? That's why what we did was we simply made that undefined. So here you can see we didn't get the password. That's it. But I hope now you can see that things are working well. But right now you can see as a response we are actually getting refresh token. Don't worry about this, I actually added this personally. I'll just explain what is it. But right now you can assume if you were following me from the last video, what you would get is ID, name, email, gender, right? You will be getting these things, and this is something which we will learn today, right? So just wait for that. So you can ignore this one, right? So now you can actually see that this was the token part. I hope you understood this part. So from today, now we will be learning about error handling first. And right now here you can actually see that we were always returning kind of different kind of errors, right? Invalid credentials, invalid credentials, different kind of errors, right? So it's kind of annoying, right? This is kind of annoying. So what we can actually do is we can create a common middleware which would be called automatically whenever we face an error. Okay, but first let's talk about what can be the possible ways of writing the same code. So first way is using try catch, right? We can use try catch. The second way is actually use then catch or inbuilt JWT here. So we have a method here, but usually you can use then catch also. Right now I would be just using the second method, which is by using the response of this. Okay, based on this response we would be simply showing details. How we can do that? So we would simply say that right now I'll just comment this part, right? I'll just comment this part, and now I'll be doing the same thing but in different method. So I hope this is visible enough, and if you have any doubts or queries you can ask me at any point of time, right? So now let's continue. I'll just explain what is the second method. So first method was actually using the try catch, right? Second method is actually we can use a simple I would say a very simple thing, that is express middleware. Okay, but I hope all of you are familiar with then catch and try catch. Okay, this is some basic JavaScript, and yeah, these are some very basic concepts which are really helpful for error handling. But right now we would be using then catch along with the inbuilt error handling middleware of this express.js. Okay, so what we would do is we would be creating a middleware which would be called whenever we face any error. Okay, so let's try to create that middleware first of all. So I would always recommend that create that error handling middleware at the bottom. Error handling middleware. Okay, so I'll be just calling this, and this is very important, so please pay attention. So here what we would do is we would simply say that app.use. Okay, one more thing, whenever you see app.use, app.use simply means either it's a middleware, okay, or you can consider that this would be called in every API request. Okay, here you can see we always want to use the course policy, we would always want to use the body parser in any type of request, so we actually write app.use. Okay, so I hope now you get the analogy how we write things for app.use and app.get. Okay, so for app.get, app.post, things are actually for specific times, like you would be calling this API for one time, okay, but this would be called every time you hit any kind of API request. So here what we have done is app.use. Inside this what you need to write is you need to write three things for a middleware, sorry, four things here. In this case we need four things. First is the error which you would be sending to this middleware, whatever is your error. Second is the request which is not required. Response would be the response which you would send to the user as an error. And what's the benefit of this is you can directly send error response here. You don't need to update this code, error code, again and again. So what I would do is, for just checking that if it's working properly, I would just say that console.log. Here I can just say that error middleware called. Okay, and then I would just specify the error so that we know what's the error, right? And now as a response I would simply say whatever is my error message I would just send as a response. So wherever I face the error I would simply call this middleware. Okay, only one line would be required for calling this middleware. Automatically Next.js, I'm sorry, automatically Express.js would identify this middleware. Whenever we get an error, this middleware would be automatically called. That's the benefit of this. So now let's try to run this, how we can actually access this middleware. We have created this middleware, but we need to call this middleware whenever we face an error. Okay, so let's take an example. Here we were actually using try catch. Okay, so here also we can use this, here also we can use this. Right now what I would do is, all right, so let's try to use this here. First of all, let's try to use this here. Right now I hope you understood till here, right? What we did was, if everything is fine, we were simply going to the next operation. What is this next? Next is simply this part, this part, this part, right? This part. But suppose we faced an error, so we were writing in this way. So instead of that, what we can actually do is, now we can simply write one thing, that is next err. So automatically Express.js would identify this, and now what would happen, whenever we call next err, this error middleware would be called. That's easy. Okay, so that's how things work in this case. All right, so right now you can see that if everything is fine, you can again see that here we were actually calling this. We were again calling this. So instead of this, what we can actually do is we would just create an error. We would simply say const error equals new error, and you would specify your error message whatever it is, and then you would simply call, suppose you also call the status and so on, different kind of things. But right now I would just say next error. Okay, you would again specify the error. Okay, for more clarity I would just, okay, let it be. So again you are just sending the error. So again this middleware would be called whenever this error type is found. This middleware would be called automatically. So you can see that it saves a lot of lines and you don't need to write much here. Okay, so it actually makes the code look more beautiful. Okay, it doesn't add too much, but yeah, it makes the code more beautiful. Here also you can see that we were actually using this. So now what I would do is simply here you can again make an error and send an error. Very easy. Okay, very easy. So now let's try to check if it's working properly. So let's try to find this for the first thing, that is token not found. Okay, token not found. So we have created this error and then we are simply calling this next. Okay, so this is the case when token is not available. So let's try to call this. So whenever we are calling get my profile, this token, I'll just remove this token and let's try to send. So right now you can see cannot read properties of, okay, we actually did one mistake. And okay, I think this won't be the case for all, but yeah, let's try to say that we wouldn't be facing this at all. But this is actually splitting the authorization to a token, that's why it happens. So what we would do is we would simply say that we don't actually have this token, right? We don't actually have this token. Now let's send. So you can see we got a error message here, token not found. Token not found. What we actually did was we simply created an error, token not found, and we sent this error message. Whenever you send this error message, automatically this would be called. Okay, this error handler would be called. Okay, that's the benefit of Express.js. It makes things a lot things easier. Okay, you won't get these things directly in Node.js. You would have to make a lot more efforts, but in Express.js you can directly just, it understands more, it understands your code more. Whenever we get an error, automatically this route would be called and the error message is sent. You can see that whenever error this route is called, we are simply getting this console. Okay, so let's try to check the console also. So you can see that your application didn't stop, by the way. You're just getting the error message here, error middleware called, and then you can see I'm sorry, for this case I think error middleware called and token not found. This is the second time which we ran this. Okay, so you can see that's how we can actually handle errors. That's so easy. Okay, by the way, you can do a lot more things here, but I now just give you a short explanation how you can implement this. Now your goal is to, your homework is to actually implement this in your whole code, in your whole APIs. Okay, so what you can do is, suppose if we were talking about login part, okay, in the login part, what you did was we simply checked that if the user didn't exist, we simply gave invalid credentials, right? So instead of this, now what we can actually do is we would simply again create an error, user does not exist, and you would just simply call this. It's damn easy. Okay, you don't need to write anything else. So yeah, in a lot of cases you would find this very great, and a lot of things can be actually done here. And right now you can actually see that we are simply sending the error message. Similarly, you can actually specify the error status also, but right now we won't be going into that detail. But right now you can see, yeah, we are specifying the error message, so we can simply send error message. Similarly, instead of that, you can specify error dot status, and you would simply send error dot status from here, right? So for that, what you can actually do is, I would just give an example. uh, Okay, let it be. The status part is not actually required for now. You can cover that on your own later on. Right now, you can see that we are actually handling this in this way. Similarly, what we would do is, similarly, you can again say invalid credentials here. Similarly, you can give an error for this case also. Okay, direct error. And whenever you are in the catch block, you already have the error. You don't need to create the error. Okay, here we didn't have the error. We have to create an error. by simply calling this. Okay, then you have to send the error. In the catch case, what we actually would do is we would simply say that next and the error. That's what you want. Okay, so automatically the error would be sent. So it's really helpful in a lot cases, and you would be needing this middleware a lot. Okay, and sometimes this middleware is not that much helpful because there are some specific cases where you need to deal with errors specifically. Okay, with some kind of errors you have to perform some tasks. In that cases you won't be needing this middleware, but yeah, sometimes it's very helpful, right? So yeah, that's how you can deal with errors in a very short lines, and that's what I wanted to tell you. Now what we would learn is simply about the refresh token. Okay, so I wanted to know in the live chat that how many of you are actually familiar with the refresh token concept. Then we would continue. All right. So I think a lot of you might not be familiar with this. So let's talk about refresh token concept. Okay. So in the last video, we actually covered an example how actually a token works. I gave you an example of a parking system where you parked your vehicle and you got a token. But suppose by chance you missed the token, okay, नाली में चला गया या कहीं चला गया, okay, कहीं पे टोकन गिर गया आपका. So what you can actually do is get a new token from the same parking guy. But how would you say that this vehicle is owned by me? Please give me another token. How you would convince that guy? Simply you would show them your driving license matching with the numbers and so on. Okay, that means you have something to actually prove that this is my vehicle. So similarly, we have a refresh token. Okay, refresh token simply says that whenever your access token expires, refresh token helps you to get another access token. Okay, so it's that easy concept. So let me just explain you how refresh token works here. So I'll just zoom it a bit. Okay, so let's take a real life example, the login one example, because now you would understand better. So suppose we have a access token, right? We have an access token. So this access token is suppose valid for 15 minutes, right? 15 minutes. And you can call any API with this access token and you are verified, you can get data. But what after 15 minutes? After 15 minutes, this token expires. So what can be the condition? Either you would say that you are not authorized. Okay, if you are not authorized, that means you have to log in again, get another access token. Okay, so this actually makes the user very, I would say the user won't feel best if they are using their application, they have to log in again and again, and that's not a good approach. Okay, that's good for whenever you are building a banking application because token expires automatically and you are logged out automatically, then you have to again log in. That's fine for banking applications. But for normal applications like e-commerce platforms or different kind of applications, do you think that they must log in again and again after 15 minutes, 1 hour, or 1 day even? Still, that's a bad experience. That's why we have a term named as refresh token. But why, first of all, let me tell you why we were actually expiring this token. We are actually expiring the token because if suppose this token instead of 15 minutes, I just make it valid for infinity. What would happen is suppose apart from you some other guy, this topi wala guy, hacker, okay, hacker has the access to this token. okay, has this access token, has your access token. That means this guy can get all your data, can get all your data. So that's a problem. Okay, that's why we are expiring token, so that after every 15 minutes this token changes. So even if somehow the hacker gets this access token, they won't be getting the next token so easily. That's why we are changing access token, we are expiring token. Okay, I hope you got the concept of expiring token. Now, how does refresh token helps us here? So the benefit of refresh token is whenever you are generating an access token, along with that, we will also generate a refresh token. So it's not 100% secure, but it actually increases the security. Deb gamer, hello sir, कैसे हैं आप? बढ़िया, आप कैसे हो? So it actually increases the security. So what actually happens here is, along with whenever you are generating a token, by the way, when are you generating a token? You are actually generating a token, suppose in the login part, right? So in the login part, we would be simply generating the access token, and we would be also generating now the refresh token. Both are same kinds of token, okay, same format. But the benefit of refresh token is, first of all, suppose I'll just make this normal, right? So let's say now again it's valid for 15 minutes, and this is valid till when? So I'll just write it with yellow. Valid till. Okay, valid till. And this refresh token is actually valid till the next time you are accessing the new access token. That means next time you are requesting a new access token. Whenever access token changes, whenever access token changes, we would be issuing new refresh token. Why we would be issuing new refresh token? Let me just give you an example. Suppose I would again say that right now, just assume that this is valid till infinite time. That means this token never expires. Okay, just another example. So suppose this is a scenario where 15 minutes have gone and now access token is expired, right? This is the case. So what would happen is, now what you would simply say is, if you have the refresh token, you would be storing the refresh token in the front end part of cookies. So if you have the refresh token, the user would simply say, whenever they try to call an API after 15 minutes, if the user has a refresh token, automatically an API would be called. First of all, the user would know that their token has expired. Then automatically an API would call, which would simply give new access token, which is valid for another 15 minutes, right? New access token valid for another 15 minutes plus a new refresh token. Okay, but now in this case, suppose we are not generating a new refresh token. So here you can see that with this refresh token, we actually generated a new access token. So we can again use this access token for another 15 minutes and 15 minutes and 15 minutes and so on. So this looks secure, right? But the problem again here is, again the hacker comes here. Now the hacker doesn't need this. Hacker would simply get your refresh token, right? And then they can again get your access token again and again. So this is also bad. So for that case, whenever you are generating a new access token, you are generating a new refresh token also. That's a very simple solution for that. Okay, just a minute. I don't know why it happens with Microsoft Whiteboard, but anyways, I hope you understood the logic. I'll just open that again. भाई क्रैश ही हो गया. चलो, let it be. I hope you understood the concept of refresh token, and let me just try to open it again. for the final time. No, it's not. Okay, it finally started. Let me just open it here. Yeah, we have the whiteboard here. Fine. So we actually created a new refresh token, and now we would be simply calling this refresh token access token again and again. That means whenever after 15 minutes, what would actually happen is, let me just give you an example. By the way, guys, if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the live chat, or you can follow me on Instagram. You can message me there also. And nowadays, a lot of people are actually asking me doubts regarding this Stack backend course. And whatever doubts you have, you can actually message me there. Okay, so this is my Instagram handle. You can message me here, right? So I'll just close it. And now here you can see that what we did was we simply generated a new access token. Okay, a new access token and a refresh token. Now talking about the validity, instead of infinite time, what we would simply say, whenever access token, it's dependent on access token, so whenever 80 access token changes, refresh token changes. That's it. So whenever new access token is generated, refresh token is also generated. Okay, that's it. That's how things happen. Right, so I hope you got the logic. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the live chat, then we would go to the code part. I wanted to actually say one more thing. That is actually you can specify a parameter here. Okay, so how would actually the access token and refresh token would be stored? So let me give you an example. So for example, you are calling a login API, right? Whenever you call a login API, we would be actually given two things as a response. Okay, in the response, we would be simply giving two things, that is access token and the refresh token. So we would actually store this refresh token in the cookies. How we would actually store things in cookies, I'll just explain how you can access cookies of the front end guy from the backend API. Okay, I'll just explain this today, but yeah, you would be storing this refresh token in the cookies of the user's browser or wherever you want. And if you are talking about mobile application, you would be using local storage or async storage later on. But right now, let's assume if the user is using a website or an application, so we would be actually storing data on their cookies part, right? So that's why you can see a lot of websites actually ask for accept cookies. So please make sure that if the website is valid, trustworthy, then only you can allow cookies, else don't allow cookies because they store sensitive information also. Okay, so you would be storing refresh token in cookies, and I would say that in most cases I store my access token in the local storage, but you can also store this access token in the cookies also, but this is something related to front end. Okay, so we won't be discussing where we are storing the access token, but we are actually storing refresh token because this is important. Okay, so suppose we have the access token and you have the refresh token. Now what we would do is we would simply call the same thing. If 80 expires, 80 expires, we would simply call an API. Let's say generate 80. We would be creating this API. What this API would simply say is, in the request.cookies, in request.cookies, we would simply look for a refresh token. Okay, if we have refresh token, then we would simply generate new 80 and new RT. Okay, new RT. If we don't have refresh token, that means the user is totally not authorized, and you would simply recommend to re-login. Okay, that means the user has to log in again in that case. But right now you can see new 80 and RT is generated. Again, this would work for 15 minutes because 80 is valid for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, after 15 minutes, again this cycle would actually repeat here, right? Again this cycle would repeat, right? So I hope you got the logic for the refresh token part. Now let me just explain you the code part. Okay, so let's continue, and now I'll be writing the code here, and I'll be doing this way too fast, so please have some water, and then we'll be writing things here. All right. So let's say first of all you have to generate a refresh token. So you would be calling the login API. Inside this, what you are doing is we were generating a access token. Similarly, we would be generating a refresh token. So for better understanding, I would just name it as ACCESS, and let's give this as a response. Okay, right? So we have generated an access token and we have simply given this as a response. Similarly, you would be generating a refresh token and you would be giving this as a response. Okay, we won't be specifying the expiry of this refresh token because you know refresh token will always change. And one more thing, one more parameter of actually verifying a refresh token is you would be storing this refresh token in the user's database also, so that you can compare the refresh token which the front end guy has provided and the user database has. Okay, we would be checking that also. So here what we would do is first of all let's create a access token, and then you would be creating a refresh token. So for refresh token, you can see that for access token we were actually using a JWT secret key. So it's always recommended to have two different keys, for one for access token and the second for refresh token. So we would be simply creating another key, and you can give another password, but let me just write here, and I'll just say that its name is suppose refresh underscore secret key. Okay, so it's for the refresh token, and you would just write another password here instead of this, right? So you can see that we have two different keys now. So for refresh token we would be using the second key to actually create a new token and compare it later on, right? So here what I would do is I would just create a new token now. So for generating a new token, again you can say that const refresh equals, and now here what I want is I would simply say generate another one. So I'll just copy and paste this. So again with the same user ID I'm generating new token, and one more thing I would simply say instead of this you have given this name, right? So I'll just copy this name, and now instead of this key we are actually using this second type of key. Okay, so a new type of key is used so that it's little bit more secure. Okay, so that's the benefit, and now you can simply see that it expires in 1 hour, but I would just remove this because I don't want it to be expired automatically after sometimes. I want it to be expired whenever user request for new access token. Whenever new access token is requested, we would create new refresh token, right? So while logging in we are also creating an access token and a new refresh token. So we would simply say that in the response we are giving the access token, but for the refresh token case we want to store this in the cookies, right? In the cookies of the front end from the backend. How we can store in the front end part from the backend? Okay, we are in the backend. How we can say that this thing would be stored in the cookies? So for that we would simply say first of all right now you can see that this is my refresh token, and let me just show you my database. So guys, you can see that this was actually my database which we were following, and inside this here you can see we have users, and I would just say that right now I'll just delete this. Okay, I'll just delete this so that we are on same page. Right now you can assume that this is a new database, and if I show you my schema you can see right now we don't have anything here. Okay, so right now what I would do is let me just register a new user, right? So let me just register a new user. So for that I'll just call the register API, this would be called, and in the headers part we would simply call this, and here this is my data. So I'll just click on send, and you can see user registered successfully. Let's go here, refresh. I'll just get my data now. Hi bro, your teaching is very good, thanks. Alright, so here you can see that we generated a new object, right? So now what we want is, whenever you are logging in, we were doing two things. We were generating an access token, and the second thing is we were generating a refresh token. Now your task is to actually save your refresh token here and also send this to the cookies part of your browser. Okay, we would do both things to make things more secure. Okay, more security is required. This is an additional step. Definitely you won't be needing this much, but I would just say that store this in users object also. So for that we need to update the schema. Here you need to specify that there is something named as refresh token. Whenever you are passing new thing, you have to specify, okay, only these amount of key value pairs would be sent to the user's object. Okay, so that's why you have to specify it at least. So just type of string, and that's totally fine. Okay, so even if refresh token is not there, you don't face any issue. Okay, you won't face any issue. So just specify the type as string, and don't make it required as true, else you would face difficulties, right? So yeah, here what I would say is your refresh token is here. Now what I want is, I would simply say we got the existing user, right? We got the existing user object. So we would simply say existing user dot refresh token equals the new token which we generated, and we would just save this to our user object whenever we are logging in, not in the registration. We are logging in, and we are just saving it to the users object. So the token which we generated would be saved in the users object. Now the second thing is actually to show this in the cookie part, to save this in the cookie part. So for that, what you can do is you can simply say res dot cookie. Okay, res dot cookie. This is actually used for saving something in the cookie, and simply you can specify what is the name of your cookie. So I would just say that refreshtoken. Okay, refresh token, and refresh token. By the way, you can also store this in the local storage of your browser, but I want to access the browser from the backend part, so I'm actually using cookies. So here you can see, and I'll just give you an example. So here, first of all, you have to specify the HTTP only parameter. Don't go into that much depth because this knowledge is not that required. And you can specify the path as something like this. Okay, so you can see that we are actually storing this in the cookies of the front end users browser from the backend. That's the benefit of this. Okay, so now we are simply storing this. Now after this, we simply said that store this cookie, and then simply give this response. So we would simply do one more thing. We would give refresh token also as a response, so that we can see what token is generated. Okay, so now let's try to log in. Okay, so we created a user. Now let's try to log in. If I click on send, what actually happens here is, are we facing some issues? App crashed because, okay, we are facing an error here. Why are we facing an error? First of all, you are saying that first of all, you are saying that we are saving this in a wrong way. We have just saved this, then the cookie is here, right? Line number 123, we are actually facing an error. Why are we facing an error? Next is not defined. In this case, it's actually defined, but for now what we would do is, you can see next is not defined here. That's the issue. Okay, one more thing, you have to specify next here also. Okay, just a small mistake. Whenever you are using any kind of middleware, right, we were using this middleware for error handling, but whenever we are calling that middleware, you have to call the next here also. Okay, so this would have next, then it would recognize the middleware automatically. Fine. Now let's check that if it's working properly or not. I'll just save this, and it has still not connected. Let's try to reconnect it to MongoDB. Sometimes we face issue while connecting to MongoDB. You can see this time it got connected. So try to refresh it, it would be connected. Now let's try to call the same. If I click on send, now you can see that we got the first token, access token, and the second thing is this. So make sure, just remember this. Right now you can see it at last it has J2P4. Okay, so let's go to the cookies. So for checking the cookies in Postman, there is a method. First click on cookies. Here you can see automatically you will get refresh token word which we saved, right? If I click on this, you can see J2P4. This is the cookie which we saved just now. Okay, so I hope you got this. That's how you can save your cookies to your browser. You can assume this as the front end part, the front end user guy. From the backend, you access that guy's browser and you save that cookie. That's what we did. Okay, so we save this as the cookie, and whenever you clear the cookie, automatically you log out. Things are happening like that. So we are actually storing the refresh token in the front end guy's cookie. Now we have this. We have the refresh token, right? While logging in, we simply have the refresh token. And what about the access token? We would be using access token separately to manage access, but for refreshing things, we would be using refresh token, right? So now what we would do is, here you can see we were using get my profile, right? So let's do one thing. Okay, let's do one thing. Let me just expire this token away earlier. Okay, so here you can see that we were specifying 1 hour. Instead of this, I want this to be expired in 20 seconds. Okay, 20 seconds. 20 seconds, fine. So let me just try to re-log in, and what happened is, again, database is trying to taking a lot time to connect, so you can actually wait. Okay, I'll just save this and let me just connect to database first of all. Okay, now let's try to hit that. Okay, so again, if I click on send, you can see now it's connected. Let me just copy this. Okay, let me just wait for 20 seconds. Okay, and I think 20 seconds are not over. Let me just wait for a few more seconds. Then I would simply show you that our access token is actually expired. Okay, so right now if I hit this, you can see GWT expired. This is the error message. Why are we getting this error message, by the way? So we were actually hitting this API, right? We were hitting this API and this middleware actually called. Okay, so you can see that we got the token. Okay, then we simply said that if token is not there, this error, but if token is uh, not valid, we are simply giving JWT expired. So this actually goes directly to the catch case and automatically JWT expired error would be sent. So you can see JWT expired, that means token is expired, that means access token is expired. Now access token is expired. How we can regenerate a new access token without actually making the user login again? So once you receive this from the front end, you would call another API for refresh the token, for refreshing the token. So for that, let's create a new API here. Okay, so now you got that, yeah, our token is expired. In the front end, you would get this error. Now the front end developer would simply make a path that whenever your token is expired, an API would be called. Inside that API, the refresh token would be looked. If refresh token is there, then we would simply use that refresh token to generate a new access token and a new refresh token. Okay, so let's create that. So I'll just name this API as app.get, and since we are not sending anything from front end, so we would simply make this get type. Okay, but that's up to you. So we would just name it as refresh underscore token and async, and that's fine. Okay, so you can see that's the method. And nowadays, and from now, you have to specify next everywhere. Okay, that's also important. Please specify next everywhere whenever you are, wherever you are using the middleware, you are using this middleware anywhere, you have to specify the next also in the path. Okay, here also in the parameters also, right? So here what do you need to do is, you need to say that get refresh token from cookies. So how to get refresh token from cookies? You can simply say you have stored, right? You have stored refresh token value in cookies, right? You can simply go in the cookies. Here you can see we have refresh token value, right? We have this. So we have to access this. For accessing this, we have a package named as cookie parser. So you actually have to use that package so that you can access your cookies. So let me just open that package first of all. So npm I cookie parser, right? Cookie parser. Then after that you will be able to get the cookies. You are easily able to store the cookies. You don't need any kind of package, but for getting the cookies you need this cookie parser package. Okay, so here what I would do is I have to import cookie parser. Okay, right? And then I would just use this cookie parser. That's it. Okay, so now we are using cookie parser. Now we will simply get the value of our cookie. So let's test if we are getting the values. So for that we would simply say that token const token equals req.cookies.refresh token. So from the cookies we are actually getting this object. Okay, so let me just print this. So I'll just say, okay, I'll just say that res dot send, and inside this I would just say that are we getting the refresh token or not. So we are just sending this refresh token as a response. Okay, let me just try to call this, and you can see this route is actually available here. We are simply giving nothing. Okay, we don't need anything in this case, but we'll see what things are actually required. But right now you can see that, yeah, we have called this refresh token, right? We have called this refresh token. We are not sending anything. If I click on this send, you can see that I'm getting this refresh token. That means I'm able to extract refresh tokens value from my cookies, right? I'm able to extract. Now the next thing is simply to generate a new access token and a new refresh token. Okay, now let's write the steps for that also. Use of next. The next is basically used for calling this middleware here. Okay, whenever we are actually using this, and if you watched the video from the start, you'll know what's the use of this middleware. By default we are actually creating this middleware for handling the errors. Okay, that's how we actually handle the errors. So this is a middleware which is actually called whenever you are handling an error, but instead of that you can directly use then catch, try catch for handling errors easily. Okay, so this is just for making things easier, but if you don't want to use middlewares, that's totally fine. You can write the whole code in every API. That's also fine. And as a beginner, I actually wrote whole code in every API. Love from Tamil Nadu. Oh, nice. Actually, I used to create videos in Hindi first of all, but a lot of people are actually watching from different parts of the country. So that's why I started teaching in English. A lot of people actually criticize me for my poor English, but still it's way better to move for more reach. Okay, that's why I speak in English, and it helps people to understand more. So yeah, right now you can see that we got the refresh token. Okay, and I got a message from Domino's. Right, so here you can see that first of all we found the token. Now from this token we need to first of all say that if token doesn't exist, simply generate a new error and simply send this. Okay, so that's the use of next. Simply we generated a new error, token not found, and we simply sent this. Automatically whenever you generate error and send this to this next, no API would be called. Automatically this middleware would be called. Okay, no other middleware would be called. Automatically this middleware would be called. Okay, because this is a dedicated error handling middleware, and please use it wisely. Okay, so you can see that token not found, right? Similarly, what we can do is, by the way, right now we are not judging the status part, so I'll be just explaining that later on. Right now you can assume that every status is 500, but we'll fix that. Okay, this is very important. Right now we have just specified every status as 500, but in the next part, in the next video, I'll be just explaining how you can actually specify the status for every kind of thing. Okay, it's very easy, but we'll do that later. Okay, right now you can see that we simply said that if token doesn't exist, we are simply creating a new error and simply sending this. Okay, simply sending this. Okay, and now what I would do is I would simply say that gwt dot verify. Okay, and here inside this, by the way, you can use try catch also. You can use direct try catch also. What we did was here we were actually using try catch. Okay, we were actually using try catch. Instead of this, we actually can use JWT verify, and whatever is the response, according to that we are showing things. We'll fix that also, right? Let me just write things here first of all. So here we were simply saying JWT dot verify, and we would simply provide the refresh token. And what was the key for it? Process.env.jwt refresh key, right? This is the key for token, refresh token, right? And now we would simply say that async function, first of all, async function. Now inside this, I would just say that if it's decoded, then you would simply get the decoded value. Okay, so again, if you get the decoded, rest everything is fine, right? We got the decoded. If we got the token correct, the token is correct, it's not expired, it's valid, then decoded would have some value. Similarly, what we did was, if token is everything is fine, we got the decoded as some value. If not, then catch would be followed. It's like that. Similarly, we are following the same approach here. Same approach is followed here. I would simply say that if any error is found, this you can consider as the catch case. Okay, if any error is found, that means token has expired or anything. Okay, if any error is found, we would simply say that generate an error invalid token and simply send it to the middleware. That's it. Okay, so in the else case, that means decoded token is fine, so we would simply say that generate, just take out the id from the decoded token. Okay, the id which we have saved, so decoded.id. What we did was, whenever we are creating a refresh token, here we created a refresh token, right? So we simply saved the id inside. Okay, hidden id. So we are simply getting that id now. Okay, we are simply getting that id from the refresh token. Now we got that id, we are simply checking that does this user exist or not. First of all, we have to check that the user which we are looking for a new token that exists in our database or not. We can't generate tokens without actually checking that user exists in our database or not. Okay, so we have to check first of all, await, and we would simply find that user by id, right? We simply found that, and we would simply say that if user doesn't exist, or token, the refresh token which we are having in our cookie is not matching with what, with this MongoDB schemas. I'll just show you. I'll just refresh first of all. The token which we have in our cookie, if it doesn't matches with the saved one in our database, that means we don't have the correct refresh token. Okay, so it actually saves a lot of things. Okay, that's why we are using this. So here what we need to check, that the token which we have in our cookie, this is the token which we have in our cookie, the refresh token. The concept is very much confusing, so you can watch this video again. So this is the refresh token which we have in our cookie. We are comparing this with the user objects refresh token key value pair. Okay, that is from the MongoDB database. This value would be coming from MongoDB database dot refresh token. Okay, fine. So you can see we are comparing the cookie value with the user's refresh token value, which comes from the database, which actually comes from the database, that is from here. Okay, this is saved in database, right? So if both these value match, then only we can perform some other task, else this would be the case, else this would be the case. So here you can simply say that invalid token, and you can simply show the error, right? This is the case for our one. Now if everything is fine, we can simply say that everything is fine. So we can simply say that const, if everything is fine, we are simply generating a new access token. Okay, from the refresh token, we verified the refresh token, we found the id from refresh token, and we simply compared the object which we got from our database to our refresh token. Okay, and then we simply check that if it don't match, then invalid token. If everything matches, then we will generate new access token with again some expiry time. Let's say that this time we'll again say that it expires in 20 seconds. Okay, or let's choose a longer time. I'll just say that it expires in suppose 40 seconds, that would be better. Okay, so that's this token would expire in 40 seconds. Now here what I would say is we would again generate a new refresh token, same as it is we were generating in login part, right? Whatever we were doing in login part, we have to do the same thing. And then you can see that again we are going to generate we are going to save this in the user object, the new refresh token. So I'll just copy all these things. Okay, again these things, and then as a response I would just send that access token, refresh token, and send message token refreshed successfully. Okay, this is actually termed as token rotation. You are updating token whenever the token is expired. Okay, this is token rotation. Okay, so you can see we have created an API. This would check for refresh token. If it exists, then only we would verify. If the decoded value exists, then this would be followed. If doesn't, then the error value would be followed. Okay, so if I got the ID from the decoded ID, that means I would simply find the user with that ID. If that user doesn't exist, or the refresh token which I got from the cookies doesn't match with the refresh token of that user, then we would simply give an error. Else we would simply generate a new access token, we would simply generate a new refresh token, and we would simply save the new refresh token to the user's object. We would save to the database, and then we would simply save that refresh token again to the cookies also. Okay, so we have both things: save that refresh token to user's object and also save it to user's cookies. Fine. Now simply send this as a response. Okay, now let's try to get this here. Okay, so here what we would do is, right now you don't need to provide anything. If I click on send, right now you can see that we got the access token, new access token, and new refresh token. So whenever access token actually expires, now we can actually use this access token. Let me just copy this access token, and in my get my profile, right now you can see that around for 40 minutes new token has been generated. Okay, so if I click on send, okay, we got an issue here. What we did was, okay guys, I think we made a issue here. Okay, it expires in 40, and we simply made it. Okay, fine. So we have an invalid token value. Why we don't have invalid token value? Because remove this, paste it here. If I click on send, JWT expired. Okay, let me just try to get another one. Okay, automatically the refresh token is updated to the cookies. Automatically we would get another refresh token, and things are working like that. So you don't need to provide refresh token again and again. Okay, automatically refresh token would be refreshed. So I would just copy this, and hopefully it works this time, else you would have to check what's the issue there. Invalid token, we are actually getting the message invalid token. Let's check what's the issue here. Middleware called invalid token. In which line you can see that in line number 33 we have a invalid token error here. That is here. Okay, we are not able to find the ID. Right, we are not able to find the ID. Why is it happening? So let me just try to check this. Okay, let me just try to check this if it's working or not. So again we have to generate a new token here. Copy this and then go again here, and in this case just paste it and again click on send. Now you would simply check that what's happening. So ID is here and the token is okay. I'm sorry. Here we were providing that this object has been deleted and we have to provide some different ID. Okay, so we are actually not providing the correct ID, so we have to just provide the correct ID. Okay, so my mistake. So again go to postman, and here you can see that we have fixed the issue. So finally if I click on send, you can see JWT expired because 40 seconds went away, token expired. So we have to generate a new token. Okay, automatically refresh token would be refreshed and saved to your cookies, and you can again get the refresh token automatically. So access token is there, or just call this access token in the headers part. I would just send this access token, click on send. Now you can see I'm able to get this because 40 seconds haven't been passed, and you can see I also get the refresh token. You can also hide this value if you want by simply making refresh token as undefined, similar to password as undefined in this specific API. Okay, so now let's suppose 40 seconds have been passed. If I click on send, okay, let's just wait for a few more seconds, then 40 seconds would be passed. Okay. All right, now let's check. So you can see JWT has expired. Okay, so I've just took a very small time, 40 minutes, but instead of that, you have to use some longer time like 1 hour or 2 hour because yeah, why you need to update again and again? Just save some API calls also, but yeah, you have to make things secure also. So 40 seconds is definitely way too less. So I'll just make this 40 or 20 to at least 1 hour. We have to wait for 1 hour, or just say that wait for 1 hour, then refresh the token. Okay, after this 1 hour, this token would expire. And what would happen here is in refresh token also, I would just say that whenever new token is generated, I would just say wait for 1 hour. Okay, this token would be valid for another 1 hour, then again we would need to generate new token. Okay, so I hope you got this. And whenever this token expires, the response of this would be JWT expired. Based on that response, the front end user would actually call this API. Then again new token would be generated, automatically saved, then they can call another things. Okay, this is the very easy method, and you can use it anywhere you like. All right, so the refresh token concept is something which is not mandatory for beginners, so you can follow the last video's approach for access token only, and you can get access to anything. But refresh token is highly secure in most cases, so like not 100%, but yeah, I would say that almost it would save a lot of things for you. Okay, that's why we are using refresh token along with access token. All right, so I hope you understood this, and that's what I wanted to tell you in this video. We covered a lot today, but everything is covered, right? Alright, so guys, if you have any doubts from refresh token and access token, if you have any confusions, you can ask me in the live chat. I'll just wait for a few minutes, then we can end this session. So before ending the session, in the description, you can check out the links available by Geeks4Geeks, live courses or classroom-based programs. The links are available there. These are paid courses, so if you want to purchase, you can go for full stack courses available here. Alright, so one more thing. Please hit that subscribe button and like the videos, because this whole live session, it actually takes a lot of efforts. I've been working a lot on these specific series, and personally it takes a lot hours daily basis to actually prepare this content and to make it more easier for all you guys as a beginner. All right, so please show some support, and you can share this wherever you want on LinkedIn or Instagram by simply tagging Geeks4Geeks. And you can also tag me on Instagram, or you can search me on LinkedIn and you can tag me there also. uh, yeah, like, share and subscribe. So I hope you don't have any doubts. Thank you, sir. Okay, thanks for watching. So I hope you don't have any doubts now. So in the next video, we'll be covering more on the backend series. So that's it for today. I will see you in the next one. Till then, see you, have a good day. Bye bye. And अब जाके सो जाओ, क्योंकि refresh token मुझे पता है that's a very confusing concept. So just sleep for a while, then rewatch this video, then you'll understand more about refresh tokens. Okay, so I'll see you. Bye bye.